Hey Saurabh, how are you?
I'm good, Arif. How are you doing?
Great, man, great. Finally, you are on my channel. We have been talking about it for some time now.
Yeah, I think it's been a long time. I was waiting. When am I going to get the opportunity?
Yeah, it's been like a busy month and week for both of us. You've been playing cricket, you've been working at a good job. So, like, yeah, it's a busy schedule for both of us. Finally, we have some free time. And yeah, why not discuss your inspirational journey?
Yeah, of course, I'd love to. I'm very happy to be a part of this, and you've been doing great work. मैं देख रहा हूँ a lot of students are benefiting from it. YouTube, LinkedIn, everywhere. And I've even recommended a few people. So now it makes my job easier when someone asks me, what we should be doing. I can just redirect them to you rather than answering the questions myself.
That's great. That's great. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that prospective students have. So, that's great. Thank you so much. So let's. So since you're coming onto the channel for the first time, why don't you give a little bit of introduction for everybody?
Sure. So I started with my bachelor's in computer science from MIT Manipal. That's where we met, and that was a good journey. Good 4 years, lot of exposure, lot to learn. I landed a job in KPMG with the risk advisory in IT audits. I was with them for a year. Wanted to move into core finance, and that's when I decided कि I'm gonna do FRM from Trinity College Dublin, Ireland. One of the reasons that I wanted to move to an English speaking country. And then I started my job last year with an investment management firm in London. Before that, I did a sort of a part-time job and training with the fintech in risk before I could get a full time. But it's been going well for a year. I'm working in finance. I'm in the financial capital, so I'm very happy.
Yeah, that's like the dream job, right? Working in finance in the finance capital of Europe. So that's like a good, really inspirational story. So just to expand on that, because a lot of people when they're applying for finance degrees or a master's degree in Europe, particularly in
Right.
Europe, they have maybe France, they have London in mind, they have Switzerland as well, Saint Gallen, but and
Yeah.
then they have UCD, Trinity, Dublin, or colleges there in Ireland as well. So how was your experience when it came to Trinity FRM?
Right. First, I'll start with why I chose the country in particular. So, one of the main reasons that within Europe I chose Ireland was primarily two reasons. One, that it being an English speaking country, and why I chose it over UK was at the time when I came for my master's in 2019. Ireland was the only English speaking country that was providing post study work visa. So, I felt that it would be better and it will be lighter on me when I have to search for a job. It'll be easier because UK was going through sort of a mini crisis, if you would call that, since 2014, 2015. People have not been very happy who've been graduating out of UK, but I think it's become better in the last 2 years, right? So, and FRM is financial risk management. It's a mixture of core finance as well as a bit of risk, so credit risk, market risk, along with the corporate finance and asset management side of a few subjects. It's different from typical financing or accounting degrees because this doesn't lead you into all the accounting subjects in particular, but you still cover a lot of portion in case you're planning to do CFA or FRM as a professional certification.
Okay, so when it comes to like all these degrees, is there any other reason that you chose Trinity apart from the two reasons that you mentioned? Was it because of the course itself, or was it because of some other opportunity? I mean,
Right. So I had two things in mind. One was because I had worked for a year in risk advisory. So that was in the IT audit side. It's different from what I'm doing now, but it was upcoming. In Europe, I realized that the risk and the compliance aspect is has a great market, in fact. And I was not planning to go on the ACCA side because it's purely into accounting, and that is not something I wanted to do. So I left out finance and accounting as a whole. With regards to choosing FRM, not a lot of universities offer FRM. It was a relatively new course in Trinity as well. It was 4 year old. But the reason I chose it is because one of the reasons was that the modules were great, and the second reason, obviously, because I was going to Ireland, and it's not, so to say, one of the more popular countries uh, when you compare to France, UK, or if you pick up US and Canada. It's you won't it won't be in your top 3 or 4 choices. So the other reason was that if I'm going to Ireland, I wanted to study from the top university of the country. So that's why I ended up applying in only Trinity, because I realized that in Europe and anywhere else for that matter, that how your alumni status and your network is going to hold. I realized that is also something that Trinity will give me. So based on all these decisions, I arrived at this decision.
And that's great. And to expand on your Trinity experience, as far as I know, it's a 1 year course, so it would be
Yeah,
probably like a
yeah.
fast paced course. So, how was your experience? Was it particularly catered towards complete freshers who have little to zero knowledge about finance, maybe? Or is it better for people who have like basic understanding of finance? Because I know you come from an engineering background, you come from a computer science background, but as you said, you had finance experience in your full time job after your undergraduate at KPMG. So that kind of maybe gave you a spark or a little basic knowledge about finance. But how was the program experience? If you can just elaborate a little bit on that.
So one of the other key differences that I did not mention between finance, FRM, and accounting or core finance would be that FRM is more of a mathematics based course rather than just being suited for people who've done their undergrad in finances, because it involves a lot of maths and it involves statistics, probabilities, all sorts of those things. So it was actually not that tough as I expected it to be. Obviously, the finance side of it and a lot of other subjects with regards to corporate finance and debt markets was easy for people who had done, let's say, who came from a commerce background. But because I came from an engineering background, I did obviously have an upper hand when it came to risk subjects, or assessing statistics, using probability and all sorts of stuff. We also had a lot of so integrations and all that. So that's where it was nice for me. Yes, it was very rigorous. Coming from an engineering background, I was used to doing things at the end moment.
So now you mentioned that this was kind of your course load in Trinity. So what kind of the cohort was there at Trinity? Was it full of like engineering graduates or commerce graduates, or did you have people from like completely different backgrounds who just wanted to switch their jobs? What was the cohort based off?
It was actually very mixed. I was surprised. We had commerce background, we had engineers, we also had people who had done their masters in just maths. Previously, they'd just done maths. We also had a few people who had done their MBA already, but they'd done an MBA, let's say, with business management or a generic one, and they wanted to specialize. We had people with over 10 years of experience in our course, which I was also surprised to meet, but they were so knowledgeable. It was such a nice experience. We also had a few people from actuaries background, not a lot, but a couple of them, and most of them were not from Ireland. We only had one Irish student, so a lot of exposure, a lot of that. I mean, because it was FRM, and as I said, that the base was your mathematics to be strong, you will find a lot of Asians, because it's in our DNA again. Indians and Chinese, so they have a stronghold over maths over decades now. So you will find a lot of Asians, but yeah, it was very diverse, definitely.
And I mean the alone fact that you had people who had done their MBA and people who had
Right,
10 years of experience working alongside them, because some of the other elective or course will have group projects, and if you are teamed
right,
up with an individual who has 10 years of experience, you can learn so much from them. So in
right.
itself the program can deliver a great deal of information and experience, even if it's a fast paced course.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was, in fact, sometimes it was so overwhelming because they would be talking about certain things that's so basic for them, and you're hearing it for the first time, and you want to make sure that you are contributing as well. But then when you talk to them outside class, they've been very helpful, be it if they were Indians or Germans, but they've been helpful. So that's sort of been a good learning journey, because the course in itself was very rigorous. I'm sure. I mean, combined my 4 years of engineering, probably I had to work harder than that within a year.
So one thing that is really interesting to me is you are right now working in London, but you did a master's program from Dublin. So I wanted to ask about the work environment, the work maturity, the job market that is there in Dublin. Was it not mature
Correct.
enough for the kind of roles that you were looking, or you just wanted to shift to another country, another city? I'm pretty sure because a lot of graduates from Trinity would have ended up in Dublin at full-time jobs. So how is the job market there right now? And maybe later on we'll discuss about your shift to London.
Correct. So the job market in Dublin, or let's say in the whole of Ireland at the moment, is quite booming. My friends have been able to switch jobs. In fact, I've heard a few of my friends moving directly from India and France to move in Ireland. So it's been I've been hearing very nice things over the past 1 year, and the situation as compared to 2020 and now is a lot different. 2020 it was a very average situation. Not a lot of people were getting offers. I know a few of my friends had to move back to India as well because of the kind of situation that we were in. But if you have to see from the middle of last year and this year, the second quarter, jobs have been great, especially in the tech domain. I mean, Facebook is one of the has been one of the leading recruiters in Ireland, and I've known people moving from Europe and India. Apart from that, Citibank, LinkedIn have been doing good recruitment. So yes, and they've been sponsoring people, getting people from other countries rather than having. So you can imagine if someone who's already studied from Ireland would have ample opportunities right now. In terms of finance, it was, yes, for me the kind of jobs that I was planning to move into is was mostly corporate finance or investment management. That was not something that Ireland is full of opportunities of, so to say. There are opportunities maybe for people who are a little more experienced. This is what I understood from talking to the seniors. Whereas London, being the financial capital for a reason, has a lot of you know entry level jobs for graduates, freshers, because there are definitely more companies trying to get into these kinds of businesses. So yeah, that was a slight difference, but the market is a lot better now. People in core IT, or let's say business analytics, and they have been doing pretty well. I think that's been the best sort of kind of jobs in Dublin.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I can definitely vouch for that because I've seen this kind of a similar situation here in France as well. When we were looking for jobs, internships in at the end of our first year, or even in the middle of our first year, 2020, it was not that great. Not many people got job offers during the second semester or the third trimester. But after the 2021 batch came, the situation was a lot better. They were getting jobs in different companies and roles that were not even there when we were applying. So for sure, the job market has improved in France as well. And in fact, a friend of mine, a senior of mine, did go to Ireland as well after graduating from ESSEC. I think he went to Dublin for his full-time job. So as you mentioned,
Lovely.
Ireland is sponsoring and calling people from France, and that is true. A friend of mine did go. So yeah, a job market right now, I think it's good. A lot of people have this obviously have this tension that we are spending so much in tuition fees. We are coming to Europe, we are coming to UK, France, Ireland. Will the ROI be good enough? Will we get
Exactly.
jobs or not? Do we have to come back to our home country? So it's good to hear because I can vouch for France that yes, opportunities are more than a year or two ago. And I was just talking to Siddarth as well about consulting jobs in London, and he also mentioned the same thing, that there are many job offers in consulting now in London as well. A lot of people are hiring, and you can now even vouch for Ireland as well as finance jobs in London, that there are many opportunities. That's really good to hear. One just yeah. Sorry, you were saying something.
You spoke about consulting, so yeah, I know Siddharth's been doing well as well. It's nice that you had a chat with him. And Big Four, especially, is also sponsoring jobs in London. So they've been hiring people from outside UK as well. So I'm sure that consulting jobs are also doing well within UK, apart from finance and tech, obviously. So yeah, it's I think that from the last 2 years that we saw a downfall in job opportunities, it's coming back, and it's coming back nicely. It's covering up for the last 2 years. People have been switching jobs. Even your friend is in India, I'm sure. My friends have been switching jobs multiple times in the past couple of years, that the downfall that has completely recovered now.
Yeah. From one angle, definitely. And so finally, I wanted to ask like the biggest question, the main question that I myself am very interested in. So when you did a master's degree from Dublin, you got a post-study work visa for Ireland and not for the
Right.
UK. It's so
Right.
for you applying to a job in London is same as me applying for a job in London. I am
Right.
studying from my master's program in France, so I get a post-study work visa in France, not in the UK. So how did you
Right.
approach applying to a country where you don't have a work visa, you don't have that window of finding, you have like 2 years of window to find a job, you don't have that.
Mhm.
So how did you
Right.
approach the finding a job? Networking, LinkedIn, the job portals, anything that you went through, what was your struggle, and how did you find a job? That's the biggest thing that I want to know myself.
For a lot of people, I'm sure. So it's I would suggest everyone to be persistent, because there was a point when a lot of my friends and did suggest, and nothing wrong in that you should be applying in Ireland at the same point, having a backup with you. But then, when you divide your attention in applying to two different countries, you can't put your head on one thing. If I'm applying in London, it was a long, tiring process. I tried to do, get some trainings, get in touch with more people. I focused on startups. So to define my journey, I'd break it down in two parts. So initially, when I just graduated, when I was doing my dissertation, that is when I sort of focused in connecting with people through LinkedIn. I spoke to a lot of people through my other network, that I made through friends or corporates in India and in Ireland. I spoke to people who were in London or who were working on something. I got in touch with a few people to understand what they're doing. This was mostly people who had their startups. So I was asking them what they are doing. I was trying to be involved so that I understand, how they are getting into the market, because they're going in with a new product and they will, at some point be hiring, and also from a learning point of view. So I was involved with the startup as well, that I started. So during my dissertation, I was with them. It was, you can call it a training or you can call it an internship. It was obviously unpaid, but I had a lot to learn. They had a lot of financial banks as their clients, a few Indian banks, few Chinese banks. So when I went with them on their investors call and everything of that, so that is when I started building my network. And there's nothing better than building your network when you build it in person. So nothing beats that. And luckily, you were able to meet people in person by the end of 2020. So it was going well. Then I realized that in London, it's good to have a referral, because it sort of doubles and triples your chances of getting in, or even having that round of interview which you might be just rejected. Because trust me, I've had over 100 rejection mails within that span of 3 months. It was been exhausting. It was so it was very demotivating. At some point, I'd started keeping an Excel of which companies I'm hearing back from, and then I was getting back to them. When that number crossed 50, it was just so demotivating that I skipped that part, and I thought that let me try something else. So I spoke to people. A few people told me to reach out to recruitment agencies. So I reached out to a few recruitment agencies who actually assess you before they pass on your CV to someone. So they do a sort of a pre-interview, so they know that they're passing on the right interview, they're passing it to the right interviewer in the right company, because ultimately they are also going to make money only if you are selected. So the job recruitment agencies were of a big help, because even if they did not get me a job very soon, it did give me access to a lot of interviews, because earlier I was not getting a lot of interview calls, which helps you understand a lot of people's requirements. And then I could narrow it down to jobs that provided sponsorship. So when I did not have that info in my hand, the recruiters did. So they knew if a company is going to sponsor me or not. So I know a lot of big companies do sponsor, but then to get a job there, it's easier with a referral rather than you just going on their website and applying. Because if someone in the company vouches for you, it's a big deal here. I mean, it is in India and everywhere else, but it's a bigger deal here. It's easier, I would say. And so then I started with a fintech company. I started my job last year. They did not have the exact domain that I wanted to work in, which was core finance, But because it was fintech and I knew I'm coming from a traditional tech background of computer science engineering, maybe it's a stepping stone. My dissertation was based on blockchain, so I was okay. So they would mostly do Excel and modeling for their financial clients. So they had banking clients and all of those sorts. So that was again, let's say, a networking stone for me. So I was working with one of their clients. I was on a contract for about 6 months with POSCO Capital, where I'm actually working now. So I was working with them. I was on a contract from last year July to Jan or Feb, and that turned out well because POSCO started their asset management domain, and they were hiring for their asset management because they were only two. They got their license from the FCA, Financial Conduct Authority UK, and they were expanding. So I was there at that place. They were happy with me. I was with them for 6 months, and they had the sponsorship license as well. So then I started with them officially as a portfolio analyst in March. So it's been a nice, interesting journey. I'm finally exactly where I wanted to work, and coming from a big four, I've realized how different it is to work in a small company with 10 to 12 people, so many more responsibilities, so much more fun. Your work is recognized, it's so qualitative. So it's been
The
nice.
culture in like a small company, when you compare it to like a big MNC, it's very different. There's for a lot of
Agree,
small companies, there's
agree.
no hierarchy. You are responsible for a lot of things. You're not just
Exactly,
confined to the
exactly.
exact job description that you were hired for. Definitely, you are open to give any suggestions, take up more responsibilities, and you learn a lot when you work at this kind of a startup culture. So it's definitely a very good experience, and doing that in like a dream city where you wanted to work for a long time, that's like the icing on the cake. Why not? So just to summarize the whole thing into one crisp minute, if you were to recommend the FRM course of Trinity to somebody, who would you recommend it to? Would you recommend it to both a fresher as well as someone who has done, let's say, a bachelor's in finance? Would you recommend it to both people? Plus, after that, would you recommend, just as you took that leap of faith and you had this plan A vision of applying to London and you did not divide your attention of applying to multiple countries, would you recommend that as well?
I would recommend that you do work because you learn a lot of things apart from, let's say, you wanted to work into a certain domain but you did not get into that job. Still, there's a lot that you learn when you go to office. You learn how to interact with people. You gain a lot of soft skills. You network. You meet your colleagues. You make friends. Everything. And then let's say if you don't like it for a certain amount of time, then you know that this is something that you don't want to do. Then you focus on what you want to do. You talk to your friends who are working on different domains. It'll give you an idea that where you want to, say, turn your part to when you do masters. Because doing your masters straight out of college is is not something that I would recommend. This is basically, you've done your undergrad. If you haven't worked, you again do your masters, so your sole basis of getting a job after masters is only your education. You have no experience. You might not know what you want to do, to be honest. You're thinking that you want something. So I would say that you do a job, you know what you actually want. And masters is the easiest path amongst all others to change your job line. I moved from tech to finance. Let's say I was working in tech for 3 years and I go to ask someone for a finance job. They won't give it to me, not even as a fresher, because I haven't even studied anything about it. I could gain knowledge from here and there, but the masters is sort of your, go-to path when you want to switch domains. But before doing that, I would say you work somewhere, it'll give you an exposure. So then you have a clarity of what you need to do.
I mean, I cannot agree more, because this is what I tell people who come up to me as well, that so the person I was during the 4 years of undergrad and the person I
So,
was when I started my MIM degree, it's so different, because even though the period between them is just 2 years of working at a full-time job at Deloitte, but it's so much different. I learned so much at Deloitte, through the job, through meeting people from all around the world, working in a corporate world, understanding what to do, what to say, how to learn things, how to grasp new things. The maturity level increases so much. I mean, the maturity level wouldn't increase so much if you're just going from your second year to fourth year. That's also just 2 years.
agree,
But from the undergrad finishing, when you take up a full-time job to a master's degree, if that work experience is also 2 years, but that 2 years is leaps and bounds ahead of the other 2 years. So I would
I
definitely
agree.
recommend myself as well to anybody who wants to do a master's degree, maybe at least just get 1 year of work experience for sure.
Definitely, because if I have to look at myself even last year and now, I'll tell you the difference. Because now working with a small team and getting a lot of responsibilities, when I started working here, I was dealing with, let's say, a lot of CEO of the banks directly. I was so overwhelmed with dealing someone who has 25 to 30 years of experience in the market, and they are our clients. So you get overwhelmed. You don't talk with the sort of responsibility or the sort of commitment that you should, because you look at them as senior, you look at them as idols, you look at them as people you want to work for. But then you have to understand that they are your client and you've been given a responsibility by your company, and they are actually here for business. So that is, there's a huge difference in how you talk to people when you ask for business and when you give business. So even between last year and this year, so I cannot agree more. You do learn a lot in college, there's no doubt about that. But when you work in a company and you work with people, it's very different. There's no matching about it. And that's why in the last 2 years I've recommended people that if you can go to office instead of working from home, you do that. I have only worked once in my entire last year from home because I had to, and that's also something that I prefer and enjoy.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for giving me this time of yours and explaining your entire journey. I'm sure this video will be inspirational to a lot of finance students. And yeah, thank you for coming onto the channel, man.
I'm really glad I could help. Yeah, I mean, you've been doing so well. I'm sure that not a lot of people take out time regularly. You do it so regularly. You're active on LinkedIn, you're active on YouTube and everywhere. I mean, because our generation is stuck to social media, and then they scroll through a lot of things, and then finding something so informative with your videos and the way you make it, I'm sure it will be very helpful. And I'm so glad I could help you and your say followers or people who are dependent on you for a lot of knowledge. Glad I could help.
Just I'm just trying to do something, man. Yeah. And yeah, it was a really a good chat, man. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
Of course, of course. Yeah, thanks for having me. Talk to you soon. Bye, Arif.
Bye.